This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for One in the World with Paul Seaburn and his sidekick, John Donalo. We are back after a week off, and I really need a laugh today, Paul, so I'm hoping that you're going to provide it for us.
Hoping? You're hoping? Oh, I thought it was we were guaranteed. That's our motto. Real news, sometimes strange, always
Funny.
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 That's our guarantee. Hey, everybody, what a great lead in, Karen. Go. Hopefully, we'll cheer everybody up today, including John and myself, because we were just talking about that, how much we missed being here last week. Where were we last week? Well, maybe we'll talk about it. We'll see. But where are we now? We're on newclevelandradio.net, coming to you in your ears. Maybe you're watching us on YouTube. I don't know. But this is What in the World, everybody's favorite weird news show. I am Paul Seaburn, your host. Um, Lost my train of thought already. Holy smoke. You may know me from, let's see, from where? From Mysterious Universe, mysteriousuniverse.org, where I'm the editor and head writer. You may have heard me on some other podcasts where I'm promoting my new book, What Would You Say to a Naked Space Alien? You may know me from my comedy stuff. You may know me from Facebook. You may know me from my criminal background. I don't know where you know me from, but I guess we haven't talked about that in a long time. Well, one of these days we'll talk about that. That'll be a fun show. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. That's what we do here on What in the World. Let's see. One of those voices, the first voice you heard in your ear is Karen Hale, who is our media mogul at newclevelandradio.net, our producer, co-host, and all-around great person. Go visit newclevelandradio.net, where you'll find all of the great podcasts that Karen produces. They're not, most of them are not like What in the World. They're helpful information rather than just fun stuff to listen to. So please check them out. Also, Karen is the proprietor of Yes I Can Coaching. She is the head coach at Yes I Can Coaching with Karen. Check that out as well if you need some coaching help. Let's see. The other voice you'll hear in the other ear is my old buddy John Donalo, the other co-host, our color commentator, all around great guy, my fraternity brother. Hey, John.
Hey, Paul and Karen and audience. Yeah, it's great to be back and really missed not being around last week. So I'm sure that we'll have a super show today.
Well, John, you could look up some Bigfoot stories yourself if you need a fix, rather than waiting until I send them to you. You know,
But
Oh,
it wouldn't be the same.
you tell them.
It just wouldn't be the same, Paul and Karen. Yeah, yeah,
thank you.
understand that.
All right. Well, I don't want to tease you, but I've got a number of Bigfoot stories today.
Oh,
This is
excellent.
this is
Excellent.
going to be a paranormal show more than weird news. A lot of times we have much more weird news than Bigfoot and UFOs. But boy, I've got Loch Ness monster stories, UFO stories, and of course Bigfoot stories, along with some weird stuff. Let's see, what do we have here? Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is in the UFO business, so we're going to find out about that, her connection. Um, a man in Scotland had a really close encounter with the Loch Ness monster. We'll find out how close that was. Bigfoot has been spotted in Michigan, your favorite state, both of you, and also on Mars, my favorite planet other than Earth. Uh, we'll learn about the world's worst Slurpee flavor. Oh, wait till you hear this. This is not a good one. Um, and we like to do local stories. I've got an Ohio story. This is really cool. It's connected to another story from Japan, but Ohio has a really interesting connection to in the history of clothes drying. So I know everybody, we've all had our clothes dried, or maybe even dried them. John, have you ever dried your clothes, or is that something
I don't
you
know.
leave?
It's something I hand off to Annette, obviously. So
Whoa.
Well, okay. Well, you're going to learn how you can do it yourself.
okay, all
Uh,
right, sure.
why bungee is a bad thing, and we'll find out about that. plus some more odd news, world records, some trivia. We've got a strange sport this week, as always, from John, and we'll play everybody's favorite weird news game, Bluff the co-host. So I think I've shaken a bit of the rust off. So let's get right to our stories here. Let's check our time. Halloween is coming soon. You know, this is what are we? We passed the midpoint of September, and I was in this store the other day, and the Christmas decorations are up. So that means Halloween is just around the corner. And they're selling Halloween candy. I mean, Halloween candy is everywhere. I think 3/4 of all Halloween candy is eaten before Halloween.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would think so, sure.
Yeah. Do you eat Halloween candy before Halloween?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I make no bones about that. Sure.
Hesitation there. I think you're eating it right now, aren't you? This is unbelievable. We'll talk about this some more as Halloween approaches, but the statistics are out. Americans buy 600 million pounds of Halloween candy every year. 600 million pounds. You know, we should be in better shape from carrying all that weight from the store to our car and from the car to our house, at least, you know, getting a little bit of exercise. The average American eats around 3.4 pounds of candy every Halloween. That's every man, woman, and child. Children consume 7,000 calories and 3 cups of sugar from the Halloween candy that they collect every year. You know, I'm thinking about just passing out bags of sugar or cups of sugar, you know, cut out the middleman and give the kids what. Or even better, high fructose corn syrup, which is what is in all this stuff. And you know, the best way to get high fructose corn syrup on Halloween is in those little wax bottles. Do you remember those? You know,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure I do. Yes, they were a staple. They were a Halloween staple.
They were, yeah. They still sell them. They call them lickums. Now I don't know why they call them lick 'em, because you don't lick anything. You bite the top off and pour it down your throat. So anyways, a standard pillowcase. Now I don't see too many kids carrying pillowcases. Most of them carry bags or, you know, plastic jack-o'-lantern heads, or they just throw the candy at their parents who are walking along with them. But the standard, and I can't believe people actually study this kind of stuff. The standard pillowcase can hold 1,600 pieces of Halloween candy when fully stuffed.
Oh,
1,600 pieces. Now, I'm thinking these are those little, you know, fun size candy bars, not the full size candy bars. Although, you know, according to what everybody says, everybody's downsizing candy bars. So it could be that the full size of today was the fun size when we were collecting candy.
Probably.
Things have changed over time, right?
Yeah. So the number one candy by state across the country is Skittles. 7 states have it listed as their number one candy. Second and third place went to Reese's and M&M's. And we talked about this before. John, I think you said Reese's is your favorite candy.
It is clearly my favorite, yes.
Aaron, what is yours? Do you have a?
No, but I do like M&M peanuts.
M&M, yeah, mine too. I like M&M peanuts as well, and Reese's. I don't like Skittles. 2 polls from the Morning Consult show said that 49% of Americans actually find candy corn, of all things, tasty. So half of Americans think candy corn tastes good. 23% spit it out, and 21% don't like it, but admit it's an important part of Halloween, which is why we're talking about candy, because the next story is about candy corn. I want to get my photos lined up over here. Let's see. The reason why I'm getting photos lined up for those of you who are listening is to incentivize you to take a look at us on YouTube. Most of our stories have at least one photo that goes along with them, and we'll describe them as best we can. But it's always fun to take a look at YouTube and see what we're talking about. You get to see what we look like as well. Okay, so candy corn lovers, and so we've now heard that half of Americans think candy corn tastes good. can spend the night surrounded by candy corn at let's see, let me get this photo up here. Oh, there's my book. What would you say to a naked space alien? Check check it out at paulseaburn.com, my website. I've got a link there to take you to Amazon, where you can, if everybody loves it. It's it's number 2000, so I'm almost at the top at the Amazon list, because Amazon has like millions and millions of UFO books. There's how you can find it. There we go. Now check this out. So this is a hotel room in called the Candy Corn Suite at the Great Wolf Lodge in Pocono Mountains, Pennsylvania. It's also, they have a second one in Gurnee, Illinois at the Great Wolf Lounge there. It's called the what did I call it? The Candy Corn Suite, loaded with all kinds of candy corn paraphernalia. The beds look like candy corn. The pillows look like candy corn. The headboard looks like candy corn. And then, if that's not enough, you can see on the counter, they've got baskets full of bags of candy corn. They have a closet full of candy corn stuff. Sheets, pillows, curtains, rugs. If you're diabetic, you can stay next door. They have another room for diabetics called the Candy Corn Sweet and Low Room. Yeah. So, this is candy corn overdose for me. I don't know. What do you think? Does that appeal to either one of you?
Not me. No.
No?
Well, I guess, it's obviously a very strong theme, right? So there is some creativity, I think, involved, like you said, Paul, with the pillows being the candy corn and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, it's I guess it's true to form. Let's put it that way.
Well, I suggested that they expand. If they're getting that many people who are interested in candy corn, they should expand the theme to other types of obscure candies like Bit of Honey, and maybe open the Bit of Honeymooners suite for couples on their honeymoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So 35 million pounds of candy corn are produced every year. That's 9 billion pieces. They're little tiny pieces of candy corn, which is a billion more than there are people on Earth. So they create enough candy corn that every person can have their own unique piece. But of course, nobody eats just one of candy corn. They're like Lay's potato chips. There are actually people who brag about eating each color separately. So they with a fork and a knife, they will cut the top off, which is the white part. Then they cut the orange part and eat that. Then they're left with the yellowish stuff on the bottom, which they eat. You know what these people are called? They're called childless cat ladies. That's what they're called. A joke. Before I start getting hate mail from all those people who are tired of childless cat lady jokes, that's my joke. That's the only one I'm going to do about child. And I know many childless cat ladies, trust me, and dog ladies. So the least healthy candy at Halloween, by the way, is candy corn. Just yeah. So it's a warning. 15 pieces, 110 calories. So that's one serving, 15 pieces. I'm not sure if there's even 15 pieces in one of those little bags. And that's 22 grams of sugar, 110 calories, Ooh. 22 grams of sugar. Yeah. So you know how they collect candy after Halloween and they send it to the poor kids or they whoever they send it to. I collect all my candy corn and I send it to the Michigan Wolverines football team because I figured, anything I can do to help Ohio State beat them. If they'll eat all that stuff in their teeth.
Hey, you better watch that, Paul. I'm a little concerned to hear about that. Karen, what do you think about that?
I don't think that's a good thing, Paul. No.
Now you know. If Michigan loses this year, you can blame it on me.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on from candy corn. This story comes from Chongqing, China. Not Chungking, by the way. That's the people that make the Chinese food we used to eat when we were kids. Chinese food in a can, Chungking. A storm with wind gusts up to 76 miles per hour blew laundry off of the balconies of the high rises in the city. And the cameras all over the city, the security cameras took pictures of it, and this one doesn't do it justice. There was laundry flying everywhere, and these things are 50, 60, 70 stories tall. These apartment buildings, they're huge buildings, so the clothing's flying everywhere. They called it an underwear tsunami, mentionables. Yeah, yeah. Shorts, panties, bras, you name it, all over the place. John, I don't know if you remember, I think we saw underwear tsunami open for Men Without Hats
You
at
know,
an out.
I don't know about that, Paul, but I think you might be right. I think not the more that I think of it, I think you're right with this with that observation. Yes.
Outdoor concert, very windy, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Okay.
So,
Coming back to me now. Yes.
so I thought that this was just unusual for places like China, but it turns out that clotheslines, outdoor clotheslines, are making a comeback. I thought that everybody had an electric or a gas clothes dryer. Believe it or not, outdoor clotheslines are making a comeback, which is surprising because technically these are solar powered clothes dryers, and there's some people who are upset about solar powered anything. So, they don't refer to them as that, I guess. Um, the clothesline itself was invented by sailors back in the 1500s, I guess, who were experts at ropes and knots, and they needed to dry their clothes because they're on these wet ships. So the ships, the fastest ships, were usually the ships that had guys with big butts, which meant they had giant boxer shorts, and they'd get a couple extra miles per hour out of them while they were
Got the horn on that one, Paul. You got the horn going on that one. Hopefully.
Oh, I'm yeah.
Thank you. Good to hear. Good to hear it.
So there's an Ohio connection to this story, which I thought was interesting. The clothesline itself, the clothesline pulley, which you would see in New York, I can remember, where there's apartment buildings close together. They would run pulleys between the two buildings and run their clothes back and forth. It was invented by a guy in Ohio. His name was Leon Martin. And he actually started a company called Skyline Enterprises, which became in Middleburg, Ohio, which is in Amish country. So he's got a lot of customers there. Turns out they are the largest supplier of clothesline pulleys in the world. Right down here in Ohio. First non-solar clothes is what that. Now, in the 18th century in England and France, they invented the first mechanical clothes dryers that were not clotheslines. They were made out of metal drums. I wish I had a photo of these. And they had ventilation holes in them. And what they would, to let the heat out. So what they would do is they would take their wet clothes, they'd put it in the metal drum with the vents in it, and they suspend it over like a giant fire, like a campfire, which, was, it got the clothes dried, but that also got them full of soot. And, some of them caught on fire, which, what those were called? Those were called hot pants.
Good one.
I'm glad you hit the horn on that one, Paul. Good, very good.
Hey, we've been off for 2 weeks. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. That's okay. You're staying on top of things. That's good.
Now, not only this, here's another Ohio connection. A guy by the name of George T. Sampson invented a rack. And so instead of he didn't like the barrel, so he invented a rack that you could put like in your fireplace or in your kitchen over the stove. So you could you could suspend your clothes on this rack, lay them on the rack over your stove while you're cooking, and your clothes would dry as well. So they didn't catch on fire. This in 1892, he actually got a patent for this. So this is a legitimate invention. I don't know, drying clothes especially drying underwear in the kitchen. I can see that resulting in a lot of jokes, especially if you're serving sausages for dinner. So the first electric clothes dryer, a lot of trivia today, just to get us warmed up again. First electric dryer was invented in the early 20th century by Ross Moore, is the guy's name. He had built a shed with a gas stove in it, and then he hung his clothes in the shed. But he wanted them to spin around, so he added an electric motor to the thing that he had the clothes suspended on. So they'd spin around over this gas stove, and that the shed became the first electric dryer, which was pretty hard to put in the back in your trunk or get it delivered to your house.
I'd
So
say.
yeah, yeah. So eventually they came up with the drum dryer at Hamilton Manufacturing in Wisconsin. Um, they were called the June Day clothes dryers, I guess, because the first time you put your clothes out on the clothesline would be a June day, and they dates back to 1938 was the first one. So, all right, enough on clothes dryer. Let's get to something else. 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven around the world has unveiled, get ready for this, the Coca-Cola Oreo Zero Sugar Slurpee. This is a real thing that you can get at 7-Elevens around the world, the Coca-Cola Oreo Zero Sugar Slurpee. Perfect drink to wash down those 7-Eleven zero taste hot dogs with around those little spinners all the time. This is a real thing. So what they have, there's actually a thing called the a Coca-Cola Oreo, which is the first thing that I'm going to pick on right off the bat. But, do we really need another flavor of Oreos? I thought Oreos were perfect as it was. The way. What else do you need? One layer, 2 chocolate cookies, a glass of milk, and you're done, right, John? Is that
Yeah, sure. That's
when you eat Oreos.
Traditional way to enjoy it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then you mix Coca-Cola with them. I just don't get this. I blame it on the worst slogan that Coke ever came up with. Things go better with Coke. Things do not. There's a lot of things that don't go better with Coke. Right? Pea soup. Does pea soup go better with Coke?
I would say no. I would say no on that one.
Do eye drops? I mean, let's get out of the food business. Would you mix eye drops with Coke? No. Would you fill your hot tub with Coke? No. I don't know, John. You're the hot tub expert.
No, I would say no. That's not a good idea.
7-Eleven is so desperate that they're dragging out this old slogan, and trying to get people to drink their old drink, Slurpees. Old people go to 7-Eleven for Slurpees. Young people go to 7-Eleven for their vape products. This is how I know that this is not catching. This is not a young person's product, because they don't have any vape products based on Oreos or on Coca-Cola Zero, whatever this stuff is.
Sure.
Yeah. So things go better with Coke. Remember that slogan?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That came out in 1964. That's how long ago. That's why I know that they got to be using this to drag us back into 7-Eleven. I can see the drug companies capitalizing on this. If Oreos go better with Coke, they're going to start advertising all of our medications. Valium goes better with Coke. Anti-inflammatories go better with Coke. Ozempic goes better with Coke. Of course, that would be 0-calorie Coke. But
sure.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to bungee jumping. Okay, this was a popular story on Facebook. A professional stunt driver named Laurent Lascaux set a Guinness World Record in Paris for the highest car bungee jump when he sat in the driver's seat of his car with there's some more Oreos there, with the rear bumper connected to 8 bungee cords. And he was dropped. His car with him inside was dropped from a height of 213 feet 3 inches. Didn't hit the ground. Instead, it bounced up and down, up and down, up and down, like bungee jumps do. Somewhere, Thelma looked at Louise and said, "Why didn't we think of that?" Who comes up with these ideas to bungee? John, would you get into a car with bungees attached to it?
No, absolutely not. At least at this stage of the game, for me, no. Maybe before, but not now. That's
I was
for
going to say, so you're implying that at one time in your life you would consider doing something like this.
yeah, maybe like 50 years ago, something along that line. Oh,
This guy's a hero in Florida because he had his turn signal on the entire time that he was doing this. So, that's mandatory in Florida to leave your turn signal on. I thought that he would drive over a cliff. That would be, to me, that would be much more exciting than dropping from a crane.
oh, that'd be
Uh,
thrilling to say the least. Yeah.
I was trying to think how many bungee cords would it take before I would go and do something like this, and I couldn't come up with a number. Infinity is not enough for me, which I don't really trust bungee cords, um, the strength of bungee cords anymore. Anyways, do you know what bungee means? Did either one of you or
No, I
anybody
did
out there? It actually comes from England. I thought it came from like maybe South America or Africa, but it's an English word, and it means anything thick and squat. That's what bungee means. So
really.
who do I know who's thick and squat? Elmer Fudd. Elmer Fudd. Did Elmer Fudd ever catch Bugs Bunny? No. Okay, so I equate that to bungee cords. I don't trust Elmer Fudd. I don't trust bungee cord. End of discussion.
Okay.
It was also the word in England for the rubber eraser. So after it was thick and squat, I guess their erasers are kind of ugly in England as well. The thick and squat rubber eraser. Um, I think bungee cords are trying to rub us out. Maybe that's the message there. So I will no longer use bungee cords after I saw this, even though the guy allegedly survived. Okay, hot new food craze in Japan: boost noodle drinkable ramen. Now we all know ramen noodles are the things that come in a cup or or that you pour into a cup with hot water, and you stir it, and it's hot, hot soup. This is in a tube. It's instant pork ramen with really soft noodles that you can squeeze out so that you can consume it with one hand. If you combine this with fruit roll-ups, cheese in a can, and beer, you cover the four major food groups of all college students.
Oh my gosh. Doesn't look very appetizing though. Not
No, John, it doesn't. But this is a really popular food among game players. They said it was developed for people who can't stop playing video games
Oh,
long
okay.
enough to use both hands to eat,
Okay.
which which is why I think on the back of that, you can't see the back of it. There's a coupon on the back of the tube for depends, because if they can't stop to eat, they're probably not stopping to do much of anything else either.
Oh, good one, Paul. Good one.
Doesn't appeal. No one on my Facebook page said that this looked appealing. Everybody said it looked pretty disgusting, especially those noodles squirting out, kind of look like worms.
Yeah.
Anyway, no place on earth is safe from Taylor Swift. And I didn't realize this. And I like Taylor Swift. I mean, I think she's a good singer. John, do you like Taylor Swift?
I'm going to say I think I'm going to stay neutral on that, Paul. I'm not going to make a comment either pro or con. I'm going to stay neutral on Taylor Swift.
Okay, so that means you don't know who she is.
Well, I know who she is. Believe me, I know who she is. I just don't want to make any kind of commitment one way or the other. How would you not know who Taylor Swift is?
I know. It's hard to believe. Yeah. Karen, you like Taylor Swift?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, good singer. Okay. And it's a nice boyfriend. So the world of UFOs has been invaded by Taylor Swift. It turns out that at the 2024 MTV Music Awards, one of my favorite shows, she wore two different dresses with UFOs all over them. In one of these, the dress on the right, she wore when she accepted, the 10,000 awards that she received. They should just call it the Taylor Swift show because she won everything. And then they have the after party. So she changed out of one UFO dress and she puts on the dress that's on the left, a little mini dress, more UFOs. plus a jacket with more UFOs. I think her shoes had UFOs on them. Um, she's covered with UFOs. She even sings a song about UFOs called "Down Bad." I don't know what that means. It's something to do with being abducted by aliens. She doesn't want to be abducted or have experiments done on her. So, I mean, I'm hoping that the aliens know that she's just a singer and she's not singing about the anything real. I think she hopes that they're fans of her boyfriend Travis Kelce as well, and she's just helping him out there. Um, I'm also predicting that if this catches on, she's going to start doing covers of all the famous UFO songs, like Rocket Man, Ziggy Stardust. Um, you know, it's coming. It's coming soon to a what do you listen to? What do you listen to me? Boy, I'm telling you, yeah, I am really rusty. This is even with my notes here. But we can't go taking 2 weeks off anymore. This is terrible. Okay, so anyways, let's move on. I think this is if Taylor Swift records Ziggy Stardust, I think people will who like those Coca-Cola Slurpees with Oreos in them will probably like that as well. Okay, let's move on to Loch Ness and some Loch Ness monster stories with photos, John. By the way,
Okay, good.
Oh, I know. It's so. The first story comes from guy by the name of Duncan Roberts. Duncan Roberts is an Australian endurance swimmer. Swam across the entire Loch Ness, which is a pretty big lake, and it's also really cold. But most importantly, it's got a monster living in it, and yet he decided to swim across it. I think I have a photo. Oh, this is wait, we'll get back to that one here. Where is he? Oh, I guess I didn't put a photo of him in here. Okay. So he swims across. He's wearing a rubber suit, and he says he's thinking about the monster. Halfway across, he feels something bump against him. Now, you're in Loch Ness. You feel something big bump against you. What else could it be? It's got to be the Loch Ness monster. So he said it was a real shock to him, and then he kept on going. He made it to the other side. Then he gets out. He puts on a kilt. I don't know if he put it on over his rubber suit or not, or if he just put the kilt on. Climbed the mountain that's next to Loch Ness, the Ben Nevis Mountain, which is Britain's highest mountain. Then at the top of the mountain, he played the bagpipes, and then he climbed back down all in one day. This was some kind of that he was doing for charity. After hearing him play the bagpipes, the Loch Ness monster was hoping that he'd swim back again so she could eat him, because no, even the Loch Ness monster doesn't want to hear bagpipe music. Can you believe that? Swim across. So he has no photos. He had no proof other than the fact that it felt really big, and he was really scared. So there's Loch Ness story number one for us this week. Okay, number two. This is the one I do have photos for. Everybody's least favorite Loch Ness monster hunter, the guy in Ireland, Ian O'Fadigan, who watches TV. He watches the closed circuit TV to see the Loch Ness monster videos. He's watching one day from the camera at a bed and breakfast on Loch Ness, and he sees not one but two, so he says, Loch Ness monsters swimming together. He calls them twin Loch Ness monsters. So I do have a photo of those right here. Let's take a look at that. Well, so, thank God for the big white circle around what he's looking at there. But you can see two wakes, going through the water. He said he was shocked. If I was just thinking, if he's watching so closely and every day, does he ever have to go to the bathroom? I'm thinking about that other guy. What does he do? Anyway, so these two huge wakes moving side by side in front of the camera. Then he says they combined and they vanished. he said I think he's starting to feel pressure from people like me saying, I don't believe this, or from John. So he says it was not a seal, it was not an otter. So if it's not an otter, that makes it a notter.
Uh,
Yeah, I know. Really scrambling here today. So here's what he said. He says, because of the fact that the wake fizzles into nothing, we can assume that this event has nothing to do with human activity, which I disagree because I fizzle into nothing very regularly. And I thought it was because I'm old, but so he says it's a self-explanatory thing that some unknown creatures are involved in this sighting. Nessie is the only rational explanation he can come up with, whatever species it belongs to. And he says that both of them must be involved in behavior linked to either feeding or courtship or some sort of family bonding. So what he's saying is that these two not Loch Ness monsters swimming together could either be feeding together or courting or in some sort of family bonding. I hope they're not doing all three. Although, I know people who would pay good money to see a video of that. The So, John, you've had enough time to take a look at that photo there. What do you think?
I have to say, unfortunately, Paul and Karen and audience, I think it's inconclusive. I mean, it's to me, it's not it's sharp or defined enough to say that those are two Loch Ness monsters. I mean, they're objects, obviously, but it's hard to really discern what they are.
I know. Well, what could cause two wakes like that? Because you see absolutely nothing in front of them,
Right.
nothing behind them other than water. Um, to me, that's I'd like to know what it is. I think ultimately, that if it's not the Loch Ness monster or two Loch Ness monsters, what on earth could cause something like that? Rocks,
Not
eels, catfish, um, a guy swimming across so he can play the bagpipes on the mountain. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, John's been waiting 2 weeks for some Bigfoot stories as we talked about before. So
Yes, I
I've
am.
got
Yes, I
I
have.
got stories for you, John.
Okay.
So first one comes from Michigan. A guy by the name of Wink Barnett is his name. Cool name, Wink Barnett. I don't know if that's real or not, but we'll let him, use it. He's driving in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, looking for a sunset to take photos of. And he says, I think I caught something else along the side of the road. What do you think? So he posted the picture on social media of what he saw. And then he conveniently, for the people on social media, circled it in red so we could spot it. He says, the comments say it looked like a ghost of a woman walking away from the road, looked like a skinwalker, which is that shape-shifting thing that lives on Skinwalker Ranch, that everybody watches, that TV show, or it could be an American chupacabra in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which I've never heard of chupacabra going that far north, but that's what somebody said. Then the more logical people said it looks like a tree stump, always a possibility. Although, you would think that people in the Upper Peninsula could identify a tree stump. So I blew it up. For John and for those of you watching on YouTube. So now it's much more clear that we have no idea what this is.
Well
It's
said, Paul. Well said.
yeah, if it's a tree stump, it's running so it doesn't get hit by a car, I think. It kind of looks almost like a tree stump might be running. Some people said that it's bird poop or bug splatter on the windshield. Which it doesn't look like there's other spots on the
I think
windshield.
that's a reach. I think that's a reach, really. That's I don't think so.
I agree with you, John. Maybe it's a bird from another dimension that pooped, and the poop is in another dimension. It's kind of fading.
Maybe
I don't know.
maybe it's been photoshopped in.
Pardon?
Maybe somebody photoshopped that in.
Oh, they could have photoshopped it in, although you'd think they would do a better Photoshop than that, Karen. Um, although maybe they're trying to look more realistic. But another good one. I think it's a shape-shifting stump. I think that if the shape-shifting stump that doesn't want to be poop on the windshield of the car, so it's running across to get away from it. In other words, I have no idea what it is. John, any idea?
No, it's really kind of hard to make out. I mean, it's a creature of some kind. It looks like, right? But it's too hard to make out for
There's
me.
there is a creature that looks a cryptid that looks like a tree stump. I forget what it's called.
Uh-huh.
But very obscure, very obscure.
Mhm.
So what I think it is, since nobody else knows what it is, I think it's a Michigan player running away from a car with Ohio license plates on it.
You could be onto something with that, Paul. Maybe that could be that.
In
Sure.
disguise. It's in disguise as a tree stump.
Okay, right. Okay.
Okay. All right, John. So what would you rather have peeking in your bedroom window? Bigfoot, your neighbor's dog who smelled the pizza that you're eating in your bed, or Jason Momoa coming to tell you that he finally got your request for an autograph and he's here to deliver it in person. Which would you like?
I think, frankly, I'd say, Paul, I don't like any one of them, to be honest with you.
Well, a man in a remote cabin in Washington State claims he heard a noise outside, and he looked out the window, and he was probably hoping for Jason Momoa. Instead, he saw this. Now, this people who have looked at it have said it is the clearest picture ever of Bigfoot. Now, before you comment on it, John, I'll say it's a pretty blurry picture, but it does look somewhat like an ape face or maybe a Bigfoot face. The guy who saw it and took the picture said he was momentarily paralyzed by fear, but not paralyzed enough that he couldn't grab his phone. But then he was still paralyzed enough that his finger didn't work correctly, which is why it's so blurry. It looks like he's right up against the window.
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
yeah, no. He said the creature seemed to be interested in him, which would paralyze me for a short time before slowly backing away from the window and disappearing into the night. I don't know, John. Best ever photo of Bigfoot?
I don't know if it's a best ever, but it does really look like like an ape-like creature, like an ape-like creature's face, I should say. That's the best way I can describe this.
I wish they would have given us some more information, like how high the window was off the ground.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Sure.
so you could get a feel for how tall this whatever it is might be, because
Right.
it could have been a tall guy in a Chewbacca costume or a Bigfoot costume, but
That's
it's
true too.
weird looking. I gotta say, it is weird looking.
Yes.
Oh, one more Bigfoot story. This one is an out of this world Bigfoot story. Why do I say that? Because Bigfoot is not just in Washington, he's not just in Michigan, he's not just in Ohio, not just around the world. Bigfoot has been seen on Mars. This comes from a NASA photo. A NASA photo, which was taken in 2008, but is just making the rounds now, shows what appears to be what they described as is a contemplative alien Bigfoot sitting on a rock on Mars. Before I have a picture, I wanted to compare that photo to Jason Momoa. There's Jason Momoa, who looks like a Bigfoot too, at least that close up. Anyway, so here's Bigfoot. Bigfoot on Mars, sitting on a rock with his arm out, according to NASA, with a contemplative look as it gazes across the red planet. I'm sorry, the red planet. This was captured by the NASA Mars Exploration Rover Spirit, and it's on the eastern ridge of Mars. Even NASA says it looks like Bigfoot. They called it contemplative or philosophical, a philosophical look, which I always thought if you're going to compare Bigfoot to a philosopher, I would compare the swamp ape Florida to Rene Descartes, famous philosopher whose famous saying, John, remember what his famous saying is?
His saying is cogito ergo sum, which translated from the Latin means I think, therefore I am.
Excellent, excellent. The swamp ape would have said, I stink, therefore I am.
Oh, that's a different view of it, Paul. That's a different spin on it. Yeah. All right. Okay.
And if I had more time, I would have gotten the Latin word for that for stink. But we ran out of time there. So my favorite comment from the NASA commentary, it says, there was a comment by one of the NASA people. He says, "Poor dude escapes to another planet just to be like, just to say, oh crap, here we go again. Somebody's got my picture." Um, and it is blurry, but I'm sure the rover was probably 50 or 60 miles away doing a panorama of the planet. But John, take a look at it. Do you think that looks like a rock, or does it look like it could be Bigfoot on Mars?
I'm not saying it could be Bigfoot, but I don't think it's merely a rock. I think it now that too appears to me to be somewhat of a creature. Looks like a creature with an arm.
With an arm.
A creature
Yeah.
with an arm. You see his head, and you really can't see his whole body or whatever. But it kind of appears to be a creature. So I think that that could be Bigfoot up there.
I agree with you. The best part of that photo is the arm, or
Sure.
whatever that looks like an arm. It's rare to see a rock with an appendage like that. Now, where they got the idea that it's contemplative or philosophical, I have no idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I mean, you need a close up for that, obviously. I mean, if you get a closer photo to kind of see if it is a person, if it is a Bigfoot's face, to see contemplating, yeah, I don't buy that at all. How do you know or that creature's contemplating anything if it is a
No.
creature?
It's contemplating the fact that John knew who Rene Descartes was, and not only the English, but also the Latin version of his famous saying. That's what he's contemplating right there.
There you go. There it is.
Maybe he's contemplating that we are done with with the weird news stories for the week. And I'm sure some of you are saying, "Thank God, I hope he never takes vacation again." But good news. We are on to What in the World of Sports with John Donalo, everybody's favorite weird sports segment of What in the World. Let's see if there it is. I've got my What in the World logo up there. So John, every week I ask him to, I've known John since we were in college together. We're fraternity brothers. John knows more about sports than anybody I know. I challenge him weekly. John, find us a sport with an unusual theme that fits What in the World. And every week he finds one. And John's got one this week with an unusual twist. So why don't you tell us about it, John?
All right. Thank you for the introduction, Paul, and Karen and audience. So there's actually two sports this week. And these sports are outdoor activities that most people have participated in at one time or another. Now, the sports are stone skipping and stone skimming. Let me explain. Stone skipping and stone skimming are the art of throwing a flat stone across a body of water in such a way, usually in a sidearm motion, as you can see these individuals are doing right now, that it bounces off of the surface. You may think of these as leisure activities, but some people have taken them very seriously and to actually go for world records and world championships in either stone skimming or stone skipping. The world record for the number of skips is 88, believe it or not, set by Kurt. His nickname is Mountain Man Steiner in 2013 at Red Bridge in the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania.
Oh, in the United States.
Yeah.
I wonder how they count it. That's got to be hard to count.
Well, yeah. In fact, they have to have people that can obviously judge the number. So, yeah, I mean, it's a real effort. Now, the Guinness World Record for the farthest distance skimmed using a natural stone stands at 400 feet for men, established by a gentleman by the name of Dougie Isaacs of Scotland. And it's actually 173 feet for women, thrown by Nina Lugenbull of Switzerland.
400 feet, that's over a football field in length. That's 100 feet. Wow.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. Now, the record for most world championships win is held by the same chap, Dougie Isaacs. He has 8 men's World Stone Skimming Championship wins.
Wow.
The women's World Stone Skimming Championship wins record is held by Lucy Wood of England, and she has 5 wins. Now, in the U.S., there are 4 major stone skipping contests that are held annually, and they are referred to as the Big Four. The Big Four are the Mackinac Island Championship, which is held on the 4th of July, the Pennsylvania Championship, which takes place on the 3rd Saturday of August in Franklin, Pennsylvania. The Vermont Championship is held in September on the shore of Lake Perrin, and the Great Southern Championship happens in Arkansas on Labor Day weekend. Now, the annual World Stone Skimming Championship was held on September 7th this year in Easdale, Scotland, where relative distance counts more than the number of skips. Since 1997, competitors from all over the world come to a water-filled quarry on Easdale Island, and they use sea-worn Easdale slate that is no larger than 3 inches in diameter. Each participant gets 3 throws, and the stone must skip at least twice for the throw to count.
Three times, and the record's 88. That's pretty embarrassing.
It is. It's something else. Now, this year's winners of the competition were Simon Power of Ireland and Kerry Jones of Wales. Now, in closing, stone skipping and stone skimming sound like leisure activities, but it's obvious these people are serious about their sport. The experts say if you want to get good at it, get a sack of flat rocks, find a winding river, and throw a rock at every curve. Now listen carefully. In other words, leave no turn unstoned.
Oh,
little play on word there for everyone.
You deserve a honk on that one, John.
Well, thanks, Paul. Appreciate that.
Well earned turn. Wow, good. We've talked about stone skipping before, I think, but this was pretty interesting. That the actual world championship and world records of stone skipping, something that we've all done.
Yeah, sure.
Northeast Ohio is a good place for it as well. I'm surprised we don't have a championship because we have a lot of shale, which is a nice flat stone suitable for.
Sure, we do. Mm-hmm.
Good story. John, speaking of doing this in Ohio, although I haven't done it recently, you and I participated in a stone skipping competition back when we were in college. Do you remember that?
I don't, Paul, and you're going to have to refresh my memory again. Please, go ahead.
Of course, I will. So, as always, this story goes back to when John and I were young lads in college together in a fraternity, and the other fraternities challenge us to competitions as always, and we were challenged by one of the fraternities on campus to a stone skipping contest. And John, not only was he good at sports trivia, but he was also good at obscure sports in general. And John, you were actually the winner of the competition. I
don't remember that, Paul. You have to. Hopefully, you've got a photo or two, maybe.
If you don't remember that, you should at least remember how we celebrated afterwards, because we were so excited that John won the stone skipping competition that we participated in a John skipping competition and threw him into the water. And here's a photo of John right there.
Oh my.
Signaling that he won. He was so thrilled. He didn't mind us throwing into the water, and he gave us 2 thumbs up that he's okay, and he maybe even be skipping stoned underwater in that photo. So anyway, I can't believe you don't remember being skipped out into Lake Erie.
Well, but it does come back to me now after seeing this. So thanks as always. Appreciate that.
I don't think there's a river in University Heights, Ohio, that we could have gone to skip stones on.
No, I don't think there's one there at all.
All right, I think that's it. That's another great episode of What in the World of Sports with John Donalo. Let's get our logo off of there, and we got the full screen here for last but not least, everybody's favorite weird news game, Bluff the Co-host. Oh, people are all excited about Bluff the Co-host. I saw some of our regular listeners last week, and it's their favorite sport. Especially down in Texas where we were visiting. So hello to all of you, all of our friends down in Texas this week. We had a great time last week, and now we're ready for Bluff the Co-host. So rules are simple. I have 3 stories similar to the stories we've been telling all afternoon. One big difference: those stories were real. These stories may be real and they may be a bluff, and it's up to Karen, John, and those of you playing at home to decide real or bluff. Wagering is allowed, so place your bet. John and Karen, put your hands on the buzzers. Let's get right to story number 1. The Swiss Guard has been guarding Pope since 1506 and has strict rules about the job, including never saying anything to the Pope. That rule was broken recently when one guard who had been standing next to Pope Francis for hours suddenly got a cramp and fell over. The guard looked up at Pope Francis, and before he could stop himself, uttered a 4-letter word. The Swiss Guard handbook states that he should have been relieved of his duties on the spot, but Pope Francis instead laughed, forgave the guard, blessed him, and gave him a bottle of water for his cramps. Okay, so story from Vatican City of the Swiss Guard who broke the most sacred rule. He swore in front of the Pope and still has a job. Real or bluff? What do you say, Karen?
Well, I don't know a lot about popes, but we'll say Francis looks like the most understanding person. So I'm going to say it's real.
Okay, Karen says it's real. John, how about you?
I agree with Karen on this one. I think it's a true story, and I think it could happen, especially if he's standing in one spot or standing near the Pope for a long period of time. Anyone can cramp up, and again, I'm going to say it's real.
Anyone can cramp up.
That's right. Even a Swiss Guard.
I say that all the time. That's right. So even the Swiss Guard. So Karen and John both say that the story of the Swiss Guard who cramped up and swore in front of the Pope is real, and he didn't lose his job. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say you've both been bamboozled. That is a bluff. No, it didn't happen at all. Although I agree, I think if anybody would forgive a Swiss Guard for cramping up,
it would be Pope Francis.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. So,
all right. So better luck next time for us.
Okay. All right. Well, we got 2 more here. Scores tied 0-0. Let's get right to story number 2. An annual festival in Spain is called the Poo of the Donkey because it involves chasing a donkey around a parking lot that has been marked off with numbered squares. The crowd circles the parking lot and wagers on which square the donkey will poo on. And a poo referee is responsible for measuring the poo if it falls across multiple squares, with the winning square being the one with the largest piece of the pie. The festival is held in many Spanish cities, and the prize can reach $1,000, so it's pretty popular. The poo of the donkey is not a religious holiday, but drinking is involved, and everyone prays that they don't make asses of themselves. Okay, so we have a weird festival from Spain called the Poo of the Donkey, where people wager on where a donkey will poo. Real or bluff? John, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to have to say that this is a bluff, or let's put it this way: I hope it's a bluff. I mean, yeah, it seems too a little bit far fetched, even for our show. So I'm going to say it's a bluff.
Far-fetched. Even if the donkey got a cramp that made him poo.
Oh yeah, the cramp. Well, sure. I think donkeys are susceptible to cramps just like people are.
Okay, all right. So John said that's a bluff. Karen, how about you?
I don't think people are going to circle around and wait for a donkey to drop his load. So I'm going to say it's a bluff.
Watching that donkey drop his load. We were just talking about that a couple weeks ago. Okay, so both John and Karen say the poo of the donkey festivals in Spain are a bluff. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say you both have been bluffed again. That is a real story.
Wow.
Yeah.
The poo of the Google it, you will see pictures of donkeys pooing and people around them waving money in the air as they bet on where the donkey poops. I don't know why this isn't a big thing in the United States, because we bet on everything else. Why not on where the donkey poops?
Wow.
This means the score is still tied. We have a 0-0 tie. Points are doubled in round number 3, but it doesn't really matter. It's whoever wins, whoever gets the right answer will either win or be tied. So let's get right to story number 3. We've heard of haunted houses and haunted dolls, but a man in Peru claims he has a haunted bag of Fritos, which mysteriously appeared on his car seat one morning after being parked in his apartment parking lot overnight. At first, he thought it was a prank, but he soon believed otherwise after he was in an accident on his way to work, then was told by his boss that he'd been laid off, and then got a text from his girlfriend saying she was breaking up with him. He threw the bag of Fritos away and thought his problem would be over, but he found another bag, or possibly the same bag, in his regular apartment parking spot. Being very superstitious, he decided he would move out of the apartment on that day and hopes that the Fritos don't follow him to his new apartment. Okay, so the man in Peru who thinks that a haunted bag of Fritos that appeared in his car is causing him all kinds of problems. Real or bluff? Karen, we'll go back to you to start.
I think in Peru, people believe about all these, mystical things. So I'm going to say it's true. He saw something mystical in that bag of Fritos. So
Okay, mystical Fritos. I think we saw them that band play. Okay, Karen says the mystical Fritos is a real story. John, how about you?
I don't know. I'm torn on this one. I mean, part of me says that it's too far-fetched, and part of me says, well, maybe it did happen. I'm going to say it's a real story also. I'm going to say it's real.
Oh, okay. So John, you both of you have agreed on every single one of these.
Yeah, that's rare for us to do that.
One of them, yeah. So this is number 3. Both of you say that the haunted bag of Fritos is a real story. Let's check with the judges, and the judges say, well, the good news is you both tied. The bad news is the score remains 0-0. That's a
Really.
wow.
You never know if the story is going to be true or false. I mean, or a bluff. But
tell you what,
it
was tough coming up with the jokes this week, but I certainly got some good stories from Bluff the co-host.
Yeah, you did, obviously. Wow. Well, better luck for us next week, Karen. That's for sure.
right.
There you go, Joe. Yeah, I know John will be doing those flashcards this week to get ready for next week. Be looking for some better stories for next week, and I promise that we'll have more funny stuff as I recover from my vacation. But anyways, we have reached the end of another episode of What in the World, everybody's favorite weird news show. Our motto, yes, is real news, sometimes strange, always funny. We're here every week. This week we were here on Wednesday. Normally we're on Tuesdays at 3:30 Eastern Daylight Time if you'd like to listen to us live via YouTube. Or you can download us on all of your favorite platforms, or you can go to newclevelandradio.net, where you can click on links to get you to all those good places where you can download us. Why is that? Because it is brought to you by Karen Hale, our media mogul, our co-host, the producer of the show, and proprietor of newclevelandradio.net, and the coach of the year, Yes I Can, Coaching with Karen. So if you want to get some good coaching, by all means, go to newclevelandradio.net and check that out. Also, I want to thank my good buddy, John Donalo. John, always a good sport, always a good sport about sports, and good seeing you again after 2 weeks.
Yeah, it
That's
was
all I can
great to be
say.
back. It was great to be back with the show, and looking forward to a good show and a better show next week, and also a better performance by Karen and I on
Yeah.
Bluff the Coast.
Yeah, I hope we have some good sports news next week because both the Guardians and the Browns, the Guardians are in the throes of the playoffs, close to the playoffs, and the Browns are in the throes of trying to win. So uh,
We'll have
we'll
updates for everyone next week.
there you go. There you go. All right. And of course, we would not be here without our listeners. You're the reason why we do the podcast every week. Without, we hope you have as much fun listening as we do putting on the show each and every week. So we will be back on Tuesday next week with another episode and another collection of stories and sports and bluffs. With What in the World. So on that note, I'm going to go take a nap because I think I've worn myself out trying to come back from 2 weeks off. So I promise I'll try not to do that again. And on that, I think we should be heading out the door. Is that right?
Just one big shout out to the Dallas Wings tomorrow night, Thursday, the 19th, is their last seasonal game of this year. So
Okay.
they've had a tough year, but they're still really good. So
Good luck to the Wings. Good luck to the Wings.
Yeah. Good
Thank
luck
you.
to the Wings. That's right. All right. And we'll see you
Talk to
next
y'all.
week.
Bye.
Again, everybody. Take care.